Bill Milner, Anna Barber, Jenny Dornan, and Cillian. I'll be very quick because I'm sure you just want to watch the movie, but it's been a great obsession of mine to bring this to the screen, and I'd like to dedicate that obsession to the men and women of former Czechoslovakia and the brave fight that they took against that regime, and I hope you enjoy the film and see you afterwards. Thank you.
I'm getting verrucas in the tank, which spread to my crotch and athletes. I asked them to actually buy me a wetsuit, but they hired me a wetsuit, and it was the skankiest wetsuit. It was yellow, and it was... Anyway, so there we were in the wetsuit.
You know, as you described, far away behind the monitor, and it feels slightly removed from what you were doing. It just felt very kind of like intimate and together, and it really felt like a unit. And also, you know, even in not necessarily those scenes, but in just some of the more sort of emotional scenes, to have John right there beside us and being able to just, you know, just whisper to us, you know, directions, that was very, very powerful, and it felt very safe environment. That's mostly the chain.
How long have you been wanting? I just want to ignore this as this unfolds. Nobody wants to be used to it now. Shocking. How long have you been wanting and hoping and planning to get this film made? I mean, it's been a long process.
Yeah, since 2001, so it was a long...
Let's just quickly move on.
I want to carry on. You finish it, you understand. So anyway, I did this call with them, and they knew the situation. They knew we needed to be in Prague by Monday, and they beat the deal out over the weekend, which I've never heard of. And they paid for the first week of finance, and we went, and we didn't miss a beat.
What was it about this story in particular that had lit that fire?
Just became quite obsessed with that idea of what it was to stand in front of that Mercedes and try and do what they did, and really put the audience in their shoes. And obviously they were very much on their own, and there was a lot of people that were against the action, but they were given them all, and they just, you know, they went through it, and it was just quite incredible to sort of, to actually try and emotionally, what does that entail? You know, what does that take to actually stand in front of someone and to actually take that up? Even though he was a despicable human being, it's kind of, what does that take on your soul? What does that, how do you live with that? How do you deal with that? And obviously that very is portrayed for a real Cillian through the characters.
I mean, when you've got a director who is clearly so wrapped up, he's clearly so obsessive about this story, I mean, is that inspiring, or is that a little bit daunting as well, knowing it means quite that much to someone, it's not just another job?
I think it makes our job a lot easier. You know, I'm sure Cillian was already attached when it came my way, but Cillian known Sean for slightly longer, I guess, but it's very clear from the first meeting I had with Sean how engrossed he was in the story and how well he knew it, and I think you feed off that as an actor, you know, and there's sometimes you work with certain directors where you're not getting that vibe at all, and you think they're maybe just, you know, picking up a paycheck or whatever it is, and they're not fully involved themselves. So I think it's only a positive thing, you know. And pressure, like, I find once you get a job, the pressure eases a little bit, especially if it's something like this and the way it came around, and that you've got to trust that Sean chose you. You know, he chose Cillian and he put faith in us that it would work, and he thought the balance would be right on screen. So that gives you a lot of comfort, I think, you know, that you are the right person to portray this very important story to him.
I mean, how did both, this question for both of you, how did you start building these characters up? Because you're playing real people, so presumably there's a kind of an obligation of a kind there to do justice to that real person. But the thing that comes across, I think, in the film is also that these are ordinary men. I mean, these aren't, in a different context, these aren't heroes, it's just they come across as people who are doing what they have to in that situation. But it's easy to talk about. I guess it's tricky to play and to kind of to build something of flesh and blood out of that.
Yeah, well, I think what you mentioned there about them being ordinary human beings was one of the brilliant things about the script, and also the structure of the script, really appealed to me in that it allowed you, certainly as a reader and hopefully as an audience, to sort of begin to get to know these characters and to kind of invest in them. So when the real drama kicks in, when the stakes are raised, which to me, that is real drama, when the stakes become about kind of life and death. You're fully invested in these characters, and I think, that's very clever writing, and it's quite old-fashioned. Like nowadays, you're not stopping for a massive set piece. You're gradually getting to underneath the skin of these characters, and that's appealing to play. So I feel like because this is my first time seeing the completed film tonight, and it seemed like an earlier version, without an audience. So and you see how it begins to gradually, slowly, kind of get underneath your skin. That's certainly my experience. And that's tribute to Sean. But in terms of the real life crew, I think Sean had amassed so much materials, obviously, having lived with it for so long. So we just kind of piggybacked on that with all his materials, and then there's a freedom and there's a sort of constraint for playing a person that did exist. I mean, the constraint lies in that there are materials about them, about the way they looked and the way they got their personalities there, but also there's a freedom because you're making a piece of entertainment and it's a film, so you have to take liberties, to an extent. And I think that the main thing was the way the characters were drawn in relief to each other. They're very, very different characters, and I think their arcs go like that. They become more like each other at the beginning of the film, and I'm more like, at the end of the film. So it's kind of an interesting the way it's written, and that's, again, very clever writing.
That definitely comes across, and there is that bond that comes to life. I was just going to skip over. With the bond that's between you, how much rehearsal time did you have before the film? So it's like you have to hit the ground running as those characters. You have to, as an audience member, you have to accept that these two guys know each other, work with each other. Now, I don't know, were you two strangers? Have you had any time to develop that kind of camaraderie off camera? Clearly, it's there in space.
No, look, so
we're going on too long, man. Let's just be honest.
No, I'm going to be totally sincere here and say what I really feel, because Cillian and I have a very particular bond, and we're both Irish, and our currency in Ireland is sort of taking the piss out of each other, I think. So, but that is our sign of love, I feel. But I'm going to try to be sincere and honest here. No. But look, I'm a massive fan of Cillian's work. Before I met him, I always say that it's a tiny industry. Everyone thinks it's just everyone fucking knows each other, and or you always know. I had a host of friends that already worked with Cillian, so you find out if you're a prick. Someone said something interesting to me once about becoming a notable actor. Said, if you were a prick before you become a massive prick, and if you were actually like a really nice guy before you become like a really, really nice guy, you know what I mean? It's just like everything's sort of emphasized, So I'd only heard good things about Cillian, and he delivered on that and much, much more. And luckily we both approached the job in a very similar tone, and that's massively important, because when something is almost, you could say, a two-hander like this, it can go the other way, and things could have been very difficult, but we are very fond of each other, and I have a huge amount of respect for him. So, but that I think a lot of that is going to show in seeing elements of that and thinking that worked even prior to Cillian meeting. So it's testament to show.
I'm going to briefly bring you into your input, so we can.
Listen, I mean, it's always a gamble, that casting thing, and In fact, they do this crazy thing now, more from boys and girls. They do this kind of chemistry test. That's the most absurd thing in the world to me. How can they manufacture that? It's like some weird alchemy. You can't. It's just there or it isn't there. And we just, you know, it was the same for me. We went for dinner. It happened that myself and my wife were obsessed with the fall at the time. You know, I did such an incredible job, and I loved that show. And then we just met, and it just seemed to work. And there's a similar sense of humor and a similar approach to work, as Jamie said. And you know, I forgot how intense that film is, and I forgot like it doesn't really let up. But so we had to, the three of us, I think, together, we managed to make the atmosphere on set, you know, quite an enjoyable one, despite everything else. And I think again, it's to Sean, testament, you know, that it's the wrong word, but Sean should take credit for the fact, you know, there was families around, and it was a very, very lovely environment to work in, and then we had fun, and I think you have to do it. You're lucky to be working on such a good project, and you can't go around all sort of sad and intense, you know, you've got to get through the day.
I mean, when you're putting together the cast control, and you're thinking, okay, this needs to be purely about what's happening on screen and the chemistry and everything that we were just talking about, or does there also need to be an element of, to use your terms, not having paper tricks on stage? Do we need to have a collaborative, happy working atmosphere to make a decent film?
Well, yeah, it definitely helps. I mean, you're trying to get everybody to do their best work. So, you know, you want to put them in a position where they're able to do that and give them the support that they can do that. I don't put both of them in pricks. So going in, I met Cillian first, and you know, and Cillian's got such a brilliant sense of structure and story. And there's a reason why we've seen him for so many years, because he's fucking good. And
it's the whole time.
He's always it's like 2 children with 3 children, obviously, because they bring me down to their level, obviously. And then obviously once Cillian was in place, and I'd met with him, and I just thought it was going to be so interesting what he was going to do with Joseph. I met with Jamie, and again, same as Cillian, I'd seen the Fall, and we spoke about the darkness that was in the Fall, and how I was really looking for something that was almost the complete opposite of that. And so we had a very nice chat about that, and I came away really thinking it was going to be a lovely combination of the two. And I was lucky that they did get on, because then every day was easy. And I know we did some really big emotional stuff. I remember one day we shot Lenka's death in the morning, and in the afternoon we shot Your Meltdown in the room. It was 2 massive emotional scenes in one day. I remember you coming to me going, "Are we really doing this today?" And I was like, We'll do it.
Yeah, but the thing with that, sorry to interrupt, the thing that would allow you to do that is you have to trust the people that you're working with. Like, on another film, like, that's impossible. I mean, that's really crazy scheduling, or I don't feel that we can do it, but it felt that the bond was there to the point where we felt we could get through that day, and you know, because it's very exposing doing those sorts of scenes, and you were saying earlier, you know, you tend to see them on the schedule, you know, okay, this is coming, and you see all of a sudden 2 of them pop up in one day, and to kind of reveal yourself and expose yourself that much better emotionally, you really have to feel in a safe place.
And I think I was the best actor on that day by telling them that I wasn't worried, because I was shitting myself. We had those 2 massive scenes, but you know, it was a lovely environment and a safe environment for us to work. And I even remember, you know, Cillian actually saying to me, "Okay, done." Yeah. And you, as a director, you always go, "Okay, should we go one more?" And you know, and you'll keep doing that until, you know, and I remember Cillian still going to be saying, "Oh, okay, I've done." And I think we all knew that, but you know, you keep pushing it just in case. But you know, in that respect, I remember you saying, "I'm just going to be an actor if I do it again." There was the first, I think, and he was completely right. He was the first take.
Let me ask one more question before handing over, which is, I was kind of asked at the start actually, when we're thinking about that final sequence? Because you shot them almost in chronological order, didn't you? So it must have been near the end.
Ish.
The water was
It was the last, yeah.
And I just wondered how easy it was to shake off the experience of doing that. Because as well as being miserable and you've got the Veruca's God knows where and everything else, psychologically, I imagine that's fairly arduous stuff to go through. And I wonder at the end of that, do you just walk away? Or is there still a little bit of you which is left?
Well, I remember us being in the crypt, and we'd just shot your scenes in the crypt, and you were done, and you were going home, because we'd actually shot your church sequence slightly before your crypt sequence, because the sets weren't ready. And I remember you coming and saying, "Okay, I'm done, I'm out of here," and you said goodbye to us both and left, and we kind of turned to Cillian, and it was really kind of, we were like, we were standing in this fucking crypt, thinking 3 days of the water slowly coming out. It was the most anticlimactic goodbye ever.
Because it was, I finished at lunch or something as well, so you started to go back and shoot that day, and I was like, right, that's
It was depressing. It was kind of like, I was like, really, anyone's left. Yeah.
So it was like some big emotional output. You had lunch and
It was pretty shit,
I
yeah.
didn't even stick around for lunch, I just left.
on that note, let me open up the audience. Yes, there will be.
You can't really search a subject for that long and not come across everything that's been written about it and everything that's been made about it and spoken about it. So, obviously, Hangman also died, 43, I believe, and Atom Tap and Jet Movie, 65, and Operation Daybreak, 75. So, you've got to look at and see what's been done before. And how it's been tackled, and how you can, how it's going to shape your vision of it, and sort of help you hopefully make a new version of it. I think it's something that hasn't been looked at for a long time. And I think it's a story that's very close to the Czech people, and yet not a lot of people really know about it outside the Czech Republic. So it was important for us to really not only get it right, and that the Czech people say, "Oh, that's the locations, and that's exactly where it was," and they really get a sense that we've paid attention to detail, but also that we get to tell the story for the rest of it.
Yes, just let me I'll try and work back.
Mr. Ellis, Mr. Murphy, Mr. Dornan, congratulations. I would like to ask Mr. Dornan if you believe that this was, yes, it's you. Do you believe that this was the most challenging role in your career so far, and which was the biggest challenge you had to face? Maybe it was the Czech accent, was it maybe the action scene in the church, or maybe it was the emotions you had to portray? One last question to the director for the storyline. Why they came with a parachute, and why they chose one Slovak and one Czech action? Thank you.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It was my. I don't know. It's a hard question to answer in terms of most challenging. Well, it was certainly challenging, and it was territory that I haven't really covered before. For whatever reason, for the most part in my career so far, I haven't really played anyone as vulnerable as Jan. I'm usually playing people who sort of know what they want and are quite aggressive in the way they approach it, and so that was new territory for me. But you're meant to be an actor and meant to be able to cover all bases, and so an element of challenge there. But no, I mean. Every single job you do should feel like somewhat of a challenge. It's called work for a reason, and you should feel pushed. And this job was certainly no different, but it didn't feel like any greater challenge than any other work I've done, I think.
I wanted the audience to understand that there was some rationing and some kind of emotional reasoning that was present at Josef's last moments, and that felt whatever you believe in that happens afterwards. That sort of was the nicest representation. Whether it was there or not, or whether we did see it, or whether we just felt it, or whatever. I think it was just felt poetic for me, and Especially, I love the fact that she mirrors her hand when she plays the record and dances with him. She sort of mirrors the same thing in the clip, which I love.
It's such a strong piece of writing. I wondered, have you always had that image in mind? I mean, it feels like the kind of thing where you had that ending and then worked backwards. It's that strong.
A little bit. I mean, I worked with Robin Foster, the composer, and I remember when we spoke about the score, and I said, you know, the script said that this crypt action takes place with no production sound, but just to a piece of piano music. And so it was trying to find that perfect piece of piano music that would give me the power of what I was after visually. And Robin did, I think, a couple of attempts at it, and then I finally got this piece from him, and I listened to it, and it had that power, and it was just the track that you heard tonight. That was the track that I heard, and I remember calling him and saying, "That's the track," and I can't hear it very often because I don't want it to lose its power. So I kind of then, knowing that I had that, kind of left it, and then. Pretty much it was one of the first things we edited, and then we put the music on it, and then when we were watching the film through, I never used to watch it right to the end, because, you know, I didn't want to get bored of the track and then be calling him and saying, yeah, do you think we could try something else now? And, you know, it was right from the beginning, so it was left on. And have a set to work with like that. I had a DP friend of mine that came and walked the set, and he was like, "You bastard, you've got no green screen." And this was a DP on like really big action movies. He said, they never build anything above 11 feet for me, and we always have to paint it in afterwards. And he's, you know, so it was a joy to be able to have a set that you just looked around 360 degrees and shoot in the angle you wanted, and you'd not run out of set. You know, so yeah. 100% and we used very old photographs of actual locations from 1942, and we went to the same places where those photographs were taken, and we normally do our location stuff in there, and then we gave those photographs to our CGI guys, and they were able to replicate what it looked like from the photographs, because actually craft doesn't look like that anymore. It's really yellow.
On that note, we will have to remark all for who's joined me, and thank you.